It was supposed to be funny when he said it. I'll kick your ass right out of this unit if you screw up again. But now, months later, the same soldier has his arm wrapped tight around my waist every night, whispering a name that isn't mine. His ex-boyfriend's name. Not mine. The first time it happened, I thought it was just a fluke, the fevered dreams of a man who had seen too much. But the second time, the third time, I knew I had become a ghost. A placeholder for a love he had lost. And the worst part? I let him. I never signed up for this. I joined the army for discipline. For a clean slate after a messy childhood in Ohio. I wanted order. Structure. What I didn't expect was to find myself in the same squad as Staff Sergeant Cole Davis, the man every rookie admired, feared, or secretly wanted. He was all broad shoulders, sharp jaw, and a gaze that could pin you to the wall without a word. He was the guy who once sneered at me in front of everyone, told me I wasn't cut out for this life. And maybe he was right. But then the accident happened. The kind of mission gone wrong that strips a man down to raw nerves and shadows. Cole came back with scars inside and out. He didn't sleep. He didn't talk much. He just carried that pain like extra weight in his rucksack. And then, one night, drunk and desperate, he reached for me. I should have stopped him. I should have told him my name wasn't Daniel, that I wasn't the boy he lost. But when his fingers tightened around mine and his breath shook against my neck, I stayed still. Maybe because I wanted him. Maybe because I was lonely. Maybe because in that moment, I wasn't me anymore. I was whoever he needed me to be. And now I lie awake with his heartbeat pressed into my back, wondering how long I can keep pretending before the truth tears us both apart. The base at Fort Benning is nothing special, just another cluster of barracks, training fields, and buildings that smell faintly of gun oil and sweat. But to me, it has become a prison of secrets. By day, Cole barely acknowledges me beyond the clipped professionalism of a superior officer. By night, he clings to me like a drowning man, whispering apologies meant for someone else. It's maddening, this double life. The cruel joke of it all. The soldier who once threatened to toss me out now pulls me close as if I'm the only thing keeping him alive. Sometimes I catch myself imagining what it would be like if he knew. If he looked at Miralai, looked at me and saw not Daniel, but Alex Miller. The guy from nowhere, who messed up more drills than he should have, who fumbled his first live-fire exercise, who laughs too loudly at his own dumb jokes. Would he still want me then? Or would he retreat into the cold, unreachable version of himself again? But I can't risk it. Not when every night feels like a fragile miracle, even if it's built on a lie. It's not easy to keep up the act. He murmurs things in the dark memories, half-formed stories that don't belong to me. I nod. I squeeze his hand. I kiss him softly like I've always been the one he loved. But each time, my chest aches a little more. Because I'm falling. I'm falling for the soldier who doesn't even see me. The breaking point comes on a Tuesday. Training was brutal. The Georgia sun scorching enough to melt asphalt. We were all drenched in sweat, muscles burning, tempers short. Cole barked orders like a man possessed, his voice hoarse but unrelenting. And me? I slipped. Literally. My boot caught in the mud during the obstacle course and down I went face first, a rookie mistake. The whole squad laughed. Except Cole. He was on me in seconds, his hand gripping my vest, dragging me up like I weighed nothing. His eyes blazed, but it wasn't anger, it was something sharper, more dangerous. You think this is a game, Miller? His voice cut through the heat like ice. You think you can keep screwing around and someone else won't pay the price for your incompetence? I wanted to shout back, to tell him I was trying, that I wasn't Daniel, that I wasn't who he wanted me to be. But all I did was nod, swallowing hard, my face burning. Later that night, when the barracks fell silent, I expected him to ignore me, to stay wrapped up in his own storm. But instead, he found his way to my bunk. He didn't say a word as he pulled me against him, burying his face in my shoulder. And I let him. Again. I don't know how long I can keep this up. But I know one thing for sure. The man who once promised to break me is now the one breaking himself, piece by piece. And I'm the only one here to hold him together. And maybe just maybe that's enough. Cole didn't sleep that night. I could feel it in the way his body shifted behind me. Restless, tense, like every muscle was on high alert. His breath came in uneven bursts, too heavy, too broken. I didn't turn to face him. I never did. That was the unspoken rule, pretend. Pretend I was Daniel. Pretend the silence between us was full of love instead of lies. But something was different this time. Just past midnight, he sat up abruptly, the mattress dipping. For a moment, I thought he'd leave, that maybe he'd finally realize the truth. Instead, he whispered a name. Daniel. His voice cracked, hoarse and raw, and it wasn't just the usual longing. It was grief. I closed my eyes, willing myself not to answer, not to betray my own name. But then he reached down, his hand trembling as it brushed my hair back from my forehead. It was too tender, too desperate, and my chest tightened with something close to panic. Because I knew sooner or later this was going to break us both. The next morning, training was canceled due to the storm. The guys were relieved, joking around in the mess hall, trading stories and complaints. I tried to blend in, but my head was somewhere else. Cole sat alone at the far end, staring into his coffee like it held answers. Normally, he kept that mask on tight in public, the tough sergeant, untouchable, unflinching. But today, his shoulders sagged, his jaw clenched like he was holding back something dangerous. I thought about walking over, about saying something, anything that might anchor him back. But what could I say? Hey, I'm not Daniel, but you can still keep holding me at night? The words curdled before they could form. So I stayed put. Later that day, I found myself in the gym, trying to sweat the confusion out of my body. The clang of weights, the smell of rubber mats, the thud of boots hitting the treadmill, it was grounding. It reminded me of the one thing I could control, myself. Until Cole walked in. The room seemed to shrink the moment he stepped inside. He didn't even glance at me, just went straight for the punching bag. His fists flew, each strike harder, faster, as if he was trying to beat the ghosts out of his own chest. Sweat slicked his skin, veins standing out in his arms, every punch echoing with fury. Couldn't look away. But then the bag swayed too violently, and his balance faltered. He cursed, slamming his fist into the bag one last time before gripping it like he needed it to hold him up. His forehead pressed against the leather, his breath ragged. And before I could stop myself, I was next to him. "You're going to break your hands if you keep that up," I said softly. His head snapped up, eyes wild for a second. Then recognition softened them. "But not much. I don't need advice from you, Miller." His tone was sharp, defensive. "Maybe not," I replied, forcing a half-smile. "But you do need ice. Come on." To my surprise, he didn't argue. He let me guide him to the bench, let me wrap his hands in the cold compress from the medkit. His knuckles were raw, skin split in a few places. I worked quietly, carefully, afraid that one wrong move would make him shut me out completely. When I finished, I looked up and found him staring at me. Not through me. At me. For the first time in weeks, maybe months, his gaze wasn't clouded by the shadow of someone else. And it terrified me. That night, he didn't come to my bunk. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, feeling the hollow ache where his warmth usually pressed into my back. Part of me was relieved. Maybe this was the moment he finally pulled away, the moment I could breathe again. But another part of me, the selfish part, missed him so much it hurt. I wanted him near, even if it was all a lie. 2 days later, the squad got leave to head into town. Most of the guys were already planning bars, cheap beer, maybe a few girls to flirt with. I hadn't planned on going. But when I saw Cole putting on his jacket, something reckless in me spoke up. "Need company?" I asked. He paused, his hand on the zipper, then gave me a look I couldn't read. Finally, he nodded. "Suit yourself." We ended up in a small diner off the main street, the kind of place that smelled like grease and coffee, with faded red booths and a jukebox that hadn't worked in years. It wasn't much, but it was quiet, safe. We sat across from each other, the silence thick but not unbearable. I stirred my coffee, pretending not to notice the way his fingers tapped against the table, restless. Finally, he spoke. "You ever lose someone, Miller?" The question caught me off guard. I blinked, then nodded slowly. "Yeah, my mom. Cancer. I was 17. His jaw tightened. "Hurts like hell, doesn't it? Even when you think you're used to it. Some days it feels like it just happened. Like the wound's fresh again." I swallowed hard, my chest aching at the raw honesty in his voice. "Yeah, it never really goes away." He looked at me then, really looked, and for a heartbeat, I thought he saw me. Not Daniel. Not anyone else. Just me. And I wanted so badly to keep that moment. To hold it. To tell him the truth. But before I could, the waitress came with our food, breaking the spell. Back at the base, things shifted. Subtly but undeniably. Cole didn't reach for me that night, or the night after, but he lingered near me during the day, his gaze softer, less guarded. He asked me about Ohio, about my sister, about the stupid little details of my life I never thought anyone cared about. And I answered. I let myself hope. But hope is a dangerous thing, because the closer he got to meth, closer I got to breaking. The storm hit again a week later, rain pounding the barracks roof, thunder shaking the windows. The guys were restless, some playing cards, others telling stories to pass the time. Cole was unusually quiet, sitting in the corner, his eyes far away. When the lights flickered and went out, the room filled with groans and curses. Someone lit a flashlight, casting shadows against the walls. That's when Cole stood, his gaze locking on me. Miller, come with me. I followed him without a word, my pulse racing. We stepped out into the rain, the cold soaking through our clothes instantly. He led me to the edge of the lot, under a flickering streetlight. For a long moment he just stared at me, his fists clenching and unclenching at his sides. The rain plastered his hair to his forehead, made his uniform cling to every line of muscle. He looked wrecked. Finally he spoke, his voice breaking. Why do you stay? The question slammed into me. What do you mean? You let me, he stopped, his throat working. You let me use you, night after night, pretending you're someone else. Why? My breath caught. My heart pounded so hard I thought it might crack my ribs. Because I love you. The words screamed in my chest, but my lips refused to shape them. Instead, I whispered, because maybe I know what it's like to need someone, even if it's not real. His face crumpled, the soldier's mask shattering. And in that instant, he looked more human than I'd ever seen him. Then, before I could think, he closed the space between us. His hand came up, trembling, and he pressed his forehead to mine. The rain poured around us, the world falling away, until it was just him. Just me. And for the first time, it wasn't Daniel's name on his lips. It was silence. Honest, aching silence. The silence after the rain felt heavier than the storm itself. Back inside, the barracks were dark, quiet except for the steady drip of water from our soaked uniforms. Cole didn't speak. He just sat on the edge of my bunk, elbows on his knees, his hands pressed into his face like he could crush the confusion out of himself if he tried hard enough. I stood there, shivering, watching him fall apart piece by piece. And I hated myself for wanting to comfort him when I was the reason he was breaking. Finally, he lifted his head. His eyes were bloodshot, not from the rain, but from holding too much inside for too long. Tell me the truth, Miller. His voice was low, dangerous in the way broken things can be dangerous. Why do I keep seeing him when I look at you? My throat closed. The truth clawed at me, desperate to escape. But the fear of what would happen if I let it out, if I shattered the fragile illusion that had kept us tethered together, was unbearable. I don't know, I whispered. He studied me for a long, tense moment. His jaw worked, his fists clenching, then unclenching. And for the first time since all this began, I thought he might actually hit me. But he didn't. Instead, he stood abruptly, his chair scraping against the floor, and walked out. The next few days were hell. Cole didn't come near me. Not at drills, not at meals, not at night. He kept his distance like I was something toxic, something he needed to burn out of his system. And it hurt more than I thought it would. I'd gotten used to his presence, his warmth at my back, his hand reaching for mine in the dark. Without it, the nights stretched on forever, cold and hollow. And the worst part? Couldn't blame him. One evening, I found him outside the barracks, smoking even though we weren't supposed to on base. The cigarette glowed faintly in the dark, his face illuminated in flashes like a ghost. I almost walked past, almost saved myself the pain of being pushed away again. But my feet betrayed me. You're gonna get written up for that, I said quietly, trying for casual. He didn't look at me, just exhaled a long stream of smoke and muttered, "You gonna report me?" No. Silence, the kind that cuts. Finally, I blurted out, "I'm not him, Cole." His head turned sharply. For the first time in days, his eyes found mine. "I know. he said, his voice hoarse. God, I know. And that's the problem. The words hit me like a punch to the chest. What do you mean? He dropped the cigarette, grinding it out under his boot. When he straightened, his face was raw, open, stripped of the soldier's armor he always wore. I mean, he whispered, that I don't know how to stop wanting you anyway. The confession hung in the air between us, dangerous and fragile. My breath caught, my heart hammering so hard I thought it might crack my ribs. Cole, I started, but the words tangled on my tongue. He shook his head, stepping back like he'd already said too much. Forget it. Just forget I said anything. But I couldn't. I couldn't forget. I couldn't pretend anymore. So I did the one reckless thing I'd been too afraid to do all along. I reached for him. My hand found his wrist, warm and solid under my fingers. He froze, his eyes snapping to mine. And then, slowly, I stepped closer, close enough to feel the heat of his body even in the cool night air. I don't want to be Daniel, I whispered. I just want to be me. With you. For a long moment he didn't move, didn't breathe. Then, like something inside him finally snapped, he pulled me against him, his mouth crashing onto mine in a kiss that was all teeth and desperation and years of grief spilling over. I kissed him back, pouring every lie, every truth, every unspoken longing into that moment. It was messy, raw, imperfect, and it was real. For the first time, it was real. The nights that followed were different. He didn't call me Daniel anymore. He didn't whisper apologies into my skin that weren't meant for me. When he held me, it wasn't as a ghost, but as myself. It should have been perfect. But life isn't that kind. Because the closer we grew, the more dangerous it became. Rumors spread fast in the military. Two men spending too much time together. Too many glances exchanged across the mess hall. Too many nights where one bunk stayed empty and another too full. The whispers started. The stares. And in a place where being caught could mean the end of both our careers, maybe worse, every touch, every look felt like balancing on the edge of a blade. One night, as I lay tangled with him, his arm heavy across my chest, he spoke into the darkness. This isn't going to last, you know? The words cut deeper than I wanted to admit. Why not? Because men like us don't get to have this, he said bitterly. Not here. Not now. They'll eat us alive if they find out. I turned to face him, my hand brushing his jaw. Then let them try. He laughed, a low, humorless sound. You don't understand, Miller. You've still got your whole career ahead of you. I'm not going to be the reason you lose it. Anger flared hot in my chest. Don't I get a say in what I want? Maybe I don't care about the damn career. Maybe I just want you. His eyes softened then, the hardness in his voice cracking. He pulled me close, kissing me like it was both a promise and an apology. But I knew sooner or later, something was going to break. And it did. During a night exercise 2 weeks later, everything fell apart. We were out in the field, crawling through mud, the sound of simulated gunfire rattling the air. I was focused, adrenaline sharp in my veins until a voice cut through the chaos. Eyes up, Miller. You think this is playtime? It was Cole, barking at me in front of the entire squad. His tone was harsher than usual, almost cruel. And I realized why. He was pushing me away. In public. Making it clear to everyone that whatever they thought they saw, whatever they whispered, wasn't true. But it was. And watching him bury us under that mask, watching him pretend I was nothing more than a rookie, he had to whip into shape yet broke something inside me. That night, when the squad finally returned to the barracks, I couldn't stand it anymore. I found him alone, stripping out of his gear, his hands shaking as he shoved it into the locker. Don't you dare do that to me again, I snapped. He froze. Do what? Pretend I don't matter. My voice cracked, but I didn't care. Pretend you don't feel anything. He turned, his face a storm of anger and guilt. You think this is easy for me? You think I don't want to stand in front of everyone and tell them you're mine? But I can't. We can't. Not here. Not like this. I swallowed hard, my chest aching. Then what are we doing, Cole? What the hell are we even doing? The silence stretched, suffocating. And then he whispered the words that terrified me more than anything. Maybe we're doing nothing. He said the words like a blade to the heart. Maybe we're doing nothing. And for the first time since this whole twisted thing began, I walked away. I didn't wait for him to explain, didn't wait for him to take it back. My chest burned, my throat raw with words I couldn't say. If he wanted to erase us, then fine. I'd let him. But the ache didn't leave. Not when I threw myself into drills, not when I pushed my body until my muscles screamed, not when I laughed too loudly with the others to hide the hollow in my chest. He was everywhere, the cadence of his voice during training, the smell of smoke on his jacket, the way he once said my name like it actually mattered. I couldn't escape him. The breaking point came during a live training exercise. We were in the woods, simulating combat maneuvers, adrenaline high. The crack of blanks filled the air, shouts ricocheted between trees. It was chaos, controlled and rehearsed, but chaos nonetheless. And then it happened. A misfire. Real ammunition where there should have been blanks. A shot rang out, sharper, deadlier. I hit the ground instinctively, dirt spraying across my face. When I lifted my head, I saw him, Cole. He was on the ground, clutching his shoulder, blood spreading dark and fast through the fabric of his uniform. Cole! The name tore out of me before I could stop it. I scrambled to him, ignoring the shouted orders, the panic around us. My hands pressed against the wound, hot blood seeping through my fingers. He winced, his jaw tight, but his eyes locked on mine. Stay with me, I begged, voice shaking. Don't you dare leave me like this. His lips curved faintly, even through the pain. Thought, you said we were nothing. Tears blurred my vision. You don't get to joke right now. You don't get to God. Just stay with me. The medics rushed in then, pushing me back, hauling him onto a stretcher. I stumbled after them, my boots slipping in the mud, but someone grabbed me, held me back. I shouted, fought, but the world blurred around me, until all I saw was him being carried away. Hours later, I sat in the sterile chill of the base infirmary, my hands still stained with his blood. Every second dragged, my mind replaying his face, his words, over and over until I thought I'd lose my mind. Finally, the doctor came out. He's stable, she said. The bullet went clean through. He's lucky. You both are. I nearly collapsed with relief. When they let me in, he was pale, tired, but alive. His eyes fluttered open when I sat beside him, and for once, there was no mask, no sergeant, no soldier, just Cole. You're still here, he whispered. Where else would I be? My voice cracked. He studied me, his gaze heavy, as if searching for something buried deep. Finally, he sighed. I tried to push you away, thought it would protect you, protect us. But seeing you there today, seeing your face, I realized I can't lose you, Miller. Not like this. Not at all. I swallowed hard, my throat tight. Then don't. For a long moment, we just stared at each other, the air thick with everything unsaid. Then, slowly, he reached for my hand. His grip was weak, but it was real. And this time, he didn't call me Daniel. He called me Alex. The weeks that followed weren't easy. Rumors swirled louder than ever. Questions whispered behind our backs. Some of the guys shot us knowing looks. Others sneered. The world hadn't changed just because we had. But we had each other. Every stolen glance, every quiet night where we whispered dreams into the dark, every laugh we managed to find between the cracks of duty and fear, it was ours. Imperfect, fragile, but ours. One evening, after he'd been cleared for light duty, we sat outside the barracks, watching the sun dip below the horizon. He leaned back against the wall, his shoulder still bandaged, his face softer than I'd ever seen it. You ever think about what comes after? He asked. After what? This, he said, gesturing around us. The army, the rules, the hiding. I was quiet for a moment, then nodded. Yeah, I think about it all the time. He smiled faintly. And maybe one day it won't matter. Maybe one day we get to wake up in a house that isn't government issued, in a bed that's actually ours. Maybe one day we get to stop pretending. His hand found mine, fingers intertwining, warm and steady. Then that's the day I'm holding out for, he said softly. And for the first time, I believed him. Months later, when the orders came down, new deployments, new assignments, we faced it together. The fear, the uncertainty, the possibility of being torn apart. But this time, there were no lies, no ghosts between us. Just Alex, just Cole. Two soldiers who weren't supposed to find love here, but did anyway. And maybe it wasn't perfect. Maybe it wasn't safe. But it was real. And that was enough. At dawn on his last morning before deployment, I walked him to the gate. The sky was streaked with gold, the air heavy with goodbye. He turned to me, his expression steady but his eyes betraying the weight of leaving. "No matter where I go," he said quietly, "you're with me, always." I swallowed the lump in my throat, nodded. "And you with me." Then he did something reckless, something that made the world fall away. He leaned in and kissed me, right there in the open where anyone could see. It was brief, fierce, defiant. When he pulled back, his eyes shone. "Let them try to take this from us," he murmured. And then he was gone, swallowed by the line of soldiers boarding the transport. I stood there long after, the taste of him still on my lips, the warmth of his promise burning in my chest. And I knew whatever battles lay ahead, whatever storms tried to tear us apart, we had already won the most important one. We had found each other. Thank you for listening. If you find it interesting, please like and subscribe to follow the next stories.